Hey there, guys. So yeah, Naoya Inoue fights Marlon Tapales for undisputed. And after this fight was announced, I think it was announced about a month ago or something like that. The reaction on social media and just various social platforms is that this fight is a bit of a mismatch. It's like a gimme fight for Inoue, and it's going to be an easy fight. I think you've got to give Tapales a bit more credit than that. For example, I mean, you just look at Inoue's fight against Stephen Fulton, for example. A lot of people were picking Stephen Fulton to win for some reason. A lot of people were saying he's Inoue's toughest fight and he's his best win, which he obviously wasn't, but a lot of people were overrating Stephen Fulton when it came to that fight. And it's the same people who aren't really giving Tapales a chance. He's just there to get blown over in a couple of rounds and Inoue becomes undisputed. I actually think Tapales stylistically brings a bit more to the table than Stephen Fulton did. I mean, Stephen Fulton is pretty much... if you were tasked with making like a perfect opponent stylistically for Inoue, it would probably be Stephen Fulton. I mean, someone who has no power whatsoever, who has poor defense, a flimsy guard, someone who gets caught very, very clean when he's throwing his punches because he doesn't really bring his hands back to his face very effectively. And also someone who has overrated boxing skills. I think Tapales, with his unorthodox style, he's quite a big puncher. From what we've seen, he was able to stumble Akhmadaliev a couple of times, who had never been hurt in his career before that. And obviously Tapales was able to beat Akhmadaliev in his last fight, and in my opinion, Akhmadaliev is a better boxer than Stephen Fulton. I think he's more skilled. He's got a better amateur background. Seems to hit harder, and yeah, I think Akhmadaliev would have beaten Fulton personally. So I don't really understand why people, aren't giving Tapales a chance in this fight. I think he does pose some problems to Inoue. I think he will have his success in this fight. Obviously, there is a huge favourite in the fight, and that's Inoue, and rightly so. But I think, people should give Tapales a bit more credit in this fight. I think he'll do a bit better than people think. So, how I think this fight will go, I think possibly Inoue will, for the first couple of rounds, say, 3 or 4 rounds, I think Tapales might have his moments. I think, Inoue, he hasn't really fought anyone like Tapales before. Tapales is a southpaw. He's got a very unorthodox style. We saw in his last fight against Akhmadaliev, he was sort of hanging on the outside, just being patient, and then he would jump in with a shot, whether it was a straight left hand, a right hook or a lead uppercut. And Akhmadaliev, who is usually very calm and he's very fundamental, he's got very good boxing skills. He was a bit bewildered by that. He wasn't really able to do anything against Tapales in the early rounds. He lost like 7 rounds in a row or something like that before he won his first round, and he was able to come on strong late in the fight when he sort of figured him out. But for the first couple of rounds, Akhmadaliev was a bit bewildered by Tapales' unorthodox style and the way he just jumped in with punches. And I think it might be the same situation with Inoue. As I mentioned, he's never really fought anyone like Tapales. So I think it'll take him a few rounds to get his timing down. And I can see Tapales maybe picking up a round or two in the first couple of rounds, just landing some really eye-catching shots that, make people think he's won those rounds. But I think Tapales does have a few flaws which will cost him in this fight. We saw in his last fight he was jumping in. He obviously jumps in with punches, which is, it's a good thing because it's very unexpected, and when he's leading with power shots like that, he's going to have success because no one really expects anyone to jump in and lead with power shots like that. But when he does tend to leave his chin exposed. After Akhmadaliev had started to really get his timing down, and he was able to catch him on the way in. And I think in the last round, Tapales jumped in with a shot, and Akhmadaliev, I think he would caught him with a jab on the way in, and Tapales almost went down. And I think one of Inoue's best attribute is his timing, and the way he catches guys on the way in. And if Tapales is jumping in with his hands down and he's missing shots, Inoue is gonna tag him with a big right hand and possibly knock him down. And Tapales is very willing to trade, and we've seen guys willing to trade with Inoue before. Like Manny Rodriguez, for example, got knocked out in 2 rounds. And it's just not a good idea to trade with Inoue because of his power, his timing. He's got a very good chin. He's never been down in his career. And I don't think Tapales has the necessary power to really knock Inoue out. I think if he trades with him, that's probably suicide. I think he gets knocked out. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, guys tend to figure out Tapales as the fight goes on. I mean, Akhmadaliev was able to figure him out, and late in the fight he came on strong, and he was able to win most of the last few rounds. So yeah, after the first couple of rounds where Inoue's got his timing down, I think he'll start to take over the fight. I think Tapales will probably jump in and get caught, and then maybe he'll be a bit more reserved. Maybe he'll pick his moments a bit more. I think maybe after the first couple of rounds, Inoue will really start to take over. I think he might slow Tapales down a bit. I don't think he'll be as willing to engage as he was in the early couple of rounds. And I think by about rounds 7 or 8, something like that, I think Inoue will start to really take over the fight. And I believe Inoue will probably stop Tapales around rounds 7, 8, something like that, mid to late rounds. I think Tapales will have his moments early in the fight when he jumps in, and Inoue just hasn't got his timing down. But once Inoue sort of figures him out and really gets his timing down, and he figures out Tapales' patterns, and when he jumps in, he'll just take a step back and he'll land a right hand on the chin. And I don't think Tapales can outbox Inoue. I don't think he will be able to just stick on the outside and just outbox him from the outside. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Inoue, he's got quite good boxing skills. He was able to outbox Stephen Fulton in his last fight. So, and Tapales, he's got a fairly suspect chin. He got stopped by Ryosuke Iwasa a couple of years ago, and he was rocked by Akhmadaliev a couple of times. And I believe he's been down quite a few times in his career, even when he was fighting the bantamweight. And he fights in the shoulder roll defense, and it's very inconsistent. Sometimes he is very good defensively. Sometimes, he's not very good defensively. He's quite inconsistent. Akhmadaliev was able to catch him quite clean late in the fight. When Tapales was starting to slow down a bit, Akhmadaliev was able to catch him quite clean. And obviously, if you're allowing Inoue to catch you clean, I think he'll definitely take advantage of that. And yeah, I think rounds 7 or 8, mid to late stoppage for Inoue. Obviously Tapales will have his moments, but I think Inoue will start to catch him on the way in. I think he'll start to piece him up. I think he'll outbox him. And yeah, I think Inoue will probably walk him onto a big right hand, just time him, and I think he'll probably knock him out. So yeah, I'm going with Naoya Inoue to win this fight. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching. God bless.